Hi, I'm Mary Stamp, editor of The Fig Tree. I started it 38 years ago, and I still love publishing it. We had a remarkable event on March 4th, and if you weren't able to attend, welcome to this recorded version. It's also possible for you to still support The Fig Tree at any time.
Welcome. My name is Dale Soden, a longtime supporter of the Fig Tree and current board member. I'm sorry that we are still needing to meet virtually, but I'm sure you understand that we want to keep people safe. I want to thank Hamilton Studio for making this possible.
Hi, I'm Mary Stamp, the editor of The Fig Tree. Thank you, Dale, for coming. And after many years of supporting The Fig Tree since you came to teach at Whitworth University, we are glad that you joined our board of directors. You have supported us not only with generous gifts, but with sharing your stories and insights.
During the next few minutes, you will hear recorded comments from several people about what makes the Fig Tree special. Few communities across the country are blessed with such a rich resource in the form of the monthly newspaper, the resource directory, and the organization of the annual Legislative Conference on Public Policy. Mary Stamp and her staff of 5, including interns and a large team of volunteers, continue to inform us, inspire us, and involve us in the many activities that are aimed at promoting the common good. If you are not familiar with the work of the Fig Tree, you are in for a treat. After hearing from several people, you will have an opportunity to provide support for the Fig Tree. So thank you for being present today, and thank you for considering a gift to the Fig Tree. Now let me open us with our invocation. Gracious God, we are grateful for your presence today among us. In the midst of so much that is heartbreaking, so much that causes us anxiety and to fear for our futures and our families, we are grateful for the ways in which you have inspired so many in the Spokane community to work on behalf of the poor, the immigrant, the homeless, and those marginalized due to racism and other forms of prejudice. We are grateful today for the many in this community who continue to support the work of the Fig Tree. May we all be renewed in our effort to live out your great commandment to love our neighbors as ourselves. Amen. Now I'd like to introduce a video with greetings from the World Council of Churches sent by Benjamin Simon, Program Executive for Church Relations.
Dear friends, many greetings from the World Council of Churches in Geneva. We at the WCC appreciate the seeds of hope spread by efforts around the world like the Fig Tree. Your efforts in Eastern Washington and North Idaho help spread the seeds of understanding and relate to our theme for the 11th Assembly of the WCC, taking place from August 31st to September 8th this year in Karlsruhe, Germany. The theme is Christ's love moves the world to reconciliation and unity. We are pleased not only with the long-term ties the WCC has through your staff members, but also are pleased that Catherine Ferguson was accredited press of our Central Committee meeting online in February. We welcome several staff members, a community partner with faith leaders and leaders of conscience, and a youth who have signed up to participate in communications for the Assembly. So please watch for reports from them in the coming year. We appreciate that the Fig Tree spreads seeds of hope by including a column with updates from ecumenical news we produce to help connect people in your region with the global ecumenical family. We need such credible communication tools to create a broader vision of what faith communities are doing in each local community, region, nation, and actually the world. Blessings and peace to you.
As we gather here today, we are mindful of the past and ongoing injustices to indigenous peoples of our region. And we are mindful of Ukraine, whose people are being killed and displaced by war. We pledge our solidarity to work for reconciliation, justice, and peace, for a world in which people respect each other and live in community based on love. If you want to follow the program for today, it's at the benefit program is online at thefigtree.org. Click the link for the program in the right column of the website, or click the link in the chat for YouTube Live. Each year, I look forward to the spring benefit events as a time to reflect on our mission. This year, we are sharing our story through an informative, inspiring video that Hamilton Studio created. They compressed an hour and a half of interviews into 6 minutes. It gives an inside look into what our staff and volunteers do on a regular basis. Their work makes it possible for the Fig Tree to spread seeds of hope. They share how they seek to transform people's lives, communities, and the world. In this time of conflict in Ukraine, we will keep you aware of the seeds of peace spread around the world through people of faith working to bring reconciliation and understanding. In a time of division in our country, produced by media dwelling on two sides to stories, we face polarization. Family members can't talk to each other, and extremist groups threaten the peace within this nation. The Fig Tree instead tells stories of what is usual, what everyday people are doing to bring solutions, to improve conditions, build understanding, and foster faith values of love, peace, justice, creation care, unity, and reconciliation. Each year, some of those whose stories we have shared and who use the resource directory to improve people's lives are our many speakers. This year, they share on the theme Spreading Seeds of Hope, telling how the Fig Tree intersects with their lives, ministries, services, and faith and values. In the past years, speakers have reflected on themes like doing beyond words, doing justice, connecting people, inspires action, or the Fig Tree reveals community. These themes tell how the Fig Tree spreads seeds of hope. In 2020, we expanded our staff, joining with the directory editor Malcolm Hayworth, administrative coordinator Kay Halt, webmaster Lorna Kropp, and myself. We added development and editorial associate Mareka Fakasieki. Together, in 2021 and 22, we have built support so the newspaper and directory not only continue but thrive, involving young writers, readers, and supporters with an eye to the future. The video and speakers will inform you of our ministry, and we hope inspire you to give generously and invite you to become involved in supporting this unique media venture. I started the Fig Tree, which is an independent nonprofit newspaper, in 1984. On page 1, in between the roots of the Fig Tree, we have the verse Micah 4:4, which is everyone shall live under their own vine and fig tree in peace and unafraid. And so that was kind of the early vision of, and it still is.
All of the Fig Tree articles and the editorials and even the calendar, I think, provide an alternative look at hopeful things within this inland Northwest area. And you only have to read them to see it's not all violence, division, and polarization out there. There's people that are making a big difference in their community, and it's an invitation to really be part of that instead of part of the polarization and divisions.
I happen to live in a community that's an active community, but they're 55 and older, and they live by watching the television. And if you watch the news on television, you don't see the seeds of happiness and hope that you see in reading the Fig Tree.
The content is just always varied. It's always an exciting thing, because every time I'm encountering and interviewing a new person, it's, encountering the source of all being, or the source of truth. The concerns of life and the concerns of justice and peace and caring for creation.
I have been volunteering to deliver the newspapers for years, and I do that because I just love what the fig tree stands for. Connections, connections, connections.
Cross-cultural, cross-racial, cross-faith, anywhere there's, divisions, we try to bring people together.
Because we're local and regional, we're telling stories of people who are on the ground who are making a difference.
I discover so many things that are happening in the area, and especially now that we're also expanded into Idaho. There's a whole page of calendar events, so there's ways to get involved.
We are involved in educational events like the Eastern Washington Legislative Conference.
We also bring in workshops that also have legislative focuses on housing, environment, and other issues that are also located within our own community as well.
The other thing that we do, as well as the newspaper, is we do the resource directory.
It's kind of an educational tool of self-help for those people in the community that are in need or also wanting to make a difference in their community and don't have any other means to find that information readily available. And so the directory is kind of a one-stop shop for those people who are interested in making a difference or are in a dire emergency need for food or shelter or clothing.
Pretty much any need you have in this area, you can look through there and find an organization that can help you. And if they can't help you, they can turn you in the right direction.
We also have a Google Map version too that's online, and it also provides an expansion of services into Central Washington as well.
You can just stick in your address and then like within a certain radius where things are located.
For COVID, that is for Spokane County, and that was created out of emergent need in response to that, with agencies changing their times or canceling their hours in terms of having in-person hours. That information was changing hourly and daily as we were moving forward with COVID, and so it provided kind of that emergent need of knowing when things were open and available to provide services for the community.
It is a lifesaver for so many people.
Once they are more stable, many people will look at it and say, I wonder how I could give back. And so they can go back to the directory again.
We came up with this idea of the spreading seeds of hope.
Seeds are a good metaphor, I think, for trying to help people see that there can be hope, and when we have hope, we can approach really serious problems with a better framework. Lots of things bloom and grow out of seeds.
Not only planting those seeds, it gives you ideas of what you can do as well, and gives you the encouragement so that you can go out and make changes too.
And seeing people be creative, which hopefully will then allow them to think, oh, well, if those people, they're pretty regular just like me in many ways. If those people can do that, then maybe this seed that I've been thinking about spreading is something that can happen too.
When we consider ourselves people of faith, it's not just something on a page, but it's living and breathing and moving into the community to restore hope and to build relationships.
I can't say enough about Mary. I hold her in such high regard for her ability to keep going over practically 40 years now, continually to find ways of staying relevant.
I enjoy being a part of this story, this wonderful newspaper that's such a gift to the community and has been going on for well over 30 years.
It's more of how we can come together. The stories that they do highlights the things that we are more alike than we are different.
Fig Tree changes lives, and that's why I'm a part of it.
For people whose stories we have shared during the past year now will share how their work, the work they do, intersects with the mission and the work of the Fig Tree, and the importance of donating to keep this ecumenical interfaith and media venture going.
In her speech, Jeanette Hauk tells of our shared goals of ending racism and empowering women.
Hello, I'm Jeanette Hauk, the Chief Executive Officer of the YWCA Spokane. I feel very honored and humbled that the Fig Tree chose to feature the YWCA in one of their recent issues. It gave me the opportunity to share the important mission of the YWCA, to eliminate racism and to empower women. In that article, the Fig Tree reported on our domestic violence survivor support services and our early childhood education program. Sharing this with the readers of the Fig Tree allowed me to spread the seeds of hope, hope for survivors that they can receive the services from the YWCA that they need to secure their safety and heal from their trauma, hope for the preschool children and their families that they will be kindergarten ready and thrive in their homes. Every issue of the Fig Tree features important information about the life-affirming work of so many individuals and organizations in our community. From the front page to the final, the written words give us news and stories that brighten our day and shine the light on the people of Spokane. Yes, each volume spreads seeds of hope.
Our Fig Tree Board appreciates the insights and interactions the Reverend Walter Kendricks brings to us as he keeps us attuned to justice and faith issues in our community.
Good day to all. I'm Walter Kendricks. I have the honor and the privilege of serving as the pastor of the Morning Star Missionary Baptist Church of Spokane, Washington. I also am the Eastern Washington Commissioner for African American Affairs for the state of Washington. I appear before you today to speak for a few moments regarding how the Fig Tree intersects with and promotes the work being done in this region of our great nation, especially as it pertains to the spreading of seeds of hope. Someone wrote in another place and in another time, "Now hope does not disappoint, because the love of God has been poured out in our hearts by the Holy Spirit who was given to us." Hope does not disappoint us, for the love of God has been poured out in our hearts by His Spirit. One of the missions of the Fig Tree is to be a light and thereby spread hope throughout a community that is filled with constant streams of negativity. I personally have been involved with the Fig Tree for 4 years. I joined the Fig Tree Board, and I am now moderator of that board. The Fig Tree promotes tolerance, diversity, inclusion, and most importantly, love. A love for one another, a love for community, a love that is displayed by our actions. The Fig Tree, by its display of love for all humanity, plants, then waters seeds of hope. We now await anxiously the harvest, whose fruit reveals a bounty of love. The Fig Tree embodies the written narrative which states, "And now abide faith, hope, love, these three, but the greatest of these is love." Thank you for your time and for this opportunity presented to me to continue spreading seeds of hope.
The Reverend David Gortner, a Coeur d'Alene pastor, shares how the Fig Tree helped tell the story of his efforts to raise issues that challenged the local faith community.
Sowing seeds of hope. This phrase has me think of that wonderful parable that Jesus told about the sower. Here's this wildly wasteful farmer throwing seed out in every kind of ground, with a belief that all ground deserves the chance to be open and to blossom. Trusting that God's Spirit is the source of life for all seeds, and taking an unleashed approach to the whole enterprise of growing things. Over the years that I've taught and trained people in generous evangelism, we've begun with these assumptions. God is already present, and seeds have already been sown. And we're called to sow seeds freely without expectation of what return we'll get or what response counts. Ours is to offer the seeds of hope, offer seeds of good news. Whether there's a change of heart or conversion in life, well, that's God's work. Ours is to tell the stories. And I'm so glad that the fig tree wanted to share the story of the ways that St. Luke's Episcopal Church in Coeur d'Alene is seeking to sow seeds of hope, even in a climate in our region that can make for challenging ground. Let me reiterate what I said in the article. There is a deep theological error at play in our world today, and it is going by an appealing label of freedom. Jesus doesn't call us to freedom. Jesus frees us from the grips of sin and the shackles of oppression and the dark spaces of blindness. But Jesus then calls us into a new, deep allegiance that calls us to give ourselves to God and offer ourselves to the world as Christ offered himself. Power is unleashed when we give ourselves up for others. So we've sought as a church to sow seeds of hope and love in words and actions, doing this ourselves and in partnership with groups across North Idaho. Our experiences in these past 2 years have brought us to this place, and our interaction with the fig tree and our being featured in the article has paved the way for our collective agreement on a shared vision and mission. Through our documentary and discussion series, which was titled Finding Our Place in the Inland Northwest, we have opened space for powerful conversations. The fig tree story helped bring fresh interest to the series and to St. Luke's as a church. I'm grateful for the continuing voice of clergy who have found each other and joined me in this difficult time and are willing to offer a different voice for faith. We hold up hope along with responsibility. I'm grateful for the resource directory provided by the fig tree. In it, I find potential allies in ministry and mission to build strong partnerships in Coeur d'Alene and North Idaho. We're already relying on the directory for helping people connect with organizations who will be the most helpful to them, assisting them along the next steps in their own journey of health, strength, and wholeness. We find new partners to share seeds of hope. And this is why we support the fig tree as a congregation. We're so grateful for the seeds of hope that it spreads far and wide across this region. And we hope that we can see it grow in the range of ground covered with wild abandon, trusting that any ground can open and blossom.
Ginger Ewing, co-director of Terrain in Spokane, now uplifts the importance of fostering hope through art and our media.
When I think about hope, I think about optimism, a mindset that despite life's difficulties, there is potential for positive things to come our way. And when looking at why hope is important, hope improves our social, mental, and physical well-being. Hope makes us feel more connected to the world and the people around us. Hope makes us feel less alone. So when I hear the phrase, spreading seeds of hope, I think of actively and intentionally fostering a sense of belonging, a community that sees each other and values each other's stories, and that works hard to cultivate opportunities that positively impact our lives. I cannot think of a more apt way to describe both the fig trees and Terrain's work. When we first started Terrain almost 14 years ago, we weren't using terms like community building or social justice or equity. We simply saw the status quo and wanted to topple that structure. We understood the transformational power of art and creativity and wanted to celebrate Spokane's vibrancy. We also wanted to emphasize the contributions of people who have been overlooked, marginalized, devalued, or silenced. As we've grown, both personally and organizationally, we have a greater understanding of the interconnectivity of class, power, and opportunity, and how this affects every facet of life. Today, we talk about our work as collaborative, diverse, inclusive, open-minded, visionary, supportive, and equitable. We aim to challenge others, to challenge ourselves, to collectively build alternate sources of power, and to hold on to our core values no matter the costs. We know art is a necessary and central component of helping us to understand ourselves and the world around us. Art connects us by bringing people and ideas together. Art heals us by giving us a voice and self-expression. Art literally saves lives. While I can't speak as definitively about the fig tree as I can terrain, I do see a lot of parallels between our work. When looking at the fig tree's values, you see phrases like connecting people, sharing stories, building understanding, stirring compassion, exploring issues, offering reflection, opening dialogue, and inspiring people. But the fig tree goes beyond just talking points. They work hard to build relationships, and when you look at the kinds of stories they're telling and whose stories they're telling, they are putting their values into action. They are actively and intentionally creating an atmosphere of belonging and building a robust, compassionate, and empathetic community along the way. In fact, when the fig tree did a story about terrain in May of 2021, it was super fun to see who mentioned the article, as it gave me a window into the dynamic and diverse group of people the fig tree represents. When thinking about why a publication like the fig tree is relevant, I think it's important to return to the idea of hope and all it represents. Numerous studies show that we humans are hardwired for social interaction. We crave these relationships in the same part of the brain as we crave food. It's life-giving. This is why I value organizations like the Fig Tree who work so hard to foster these kinds of connections and understanding. Terrain has always wanted people in our community to know that hope is possible, and it's organizations like the Fig Tree who are helping to pave the way.
Now the Reverend Gary Jewell of the Fig Tree Board invites you to give generously.
Most of us think of ourselves as well informed about the news happening in the world. We read things like shooting leaves woman in hospital, suspect dead, or gun incidents in county surpasses 2020's record numbers, or global temperatures hit the highest in recorded history, these sorts of news. When we log into our computers or read the paper, we are reminded that we do indeed live in a broken world. And if that were all we read, we might mistakenly believe that justice, hope, and healing are at best elusive. But I believe, as I know most of you do, that's not the whole story. My name's Gary Jewell. I have the honor of serving on the board of the Fig Tree. In my personal and professional work, I have come to believe that we human beings are storytelling creatures. I believe we live and die by the stories we tell ourselves. Stories about who we believe ourselves to be, stories of who we think our neighbor is, stories that tell us what the world is like, and stories that instruct us in what is expected of us in this brief, sacred moment we have on this earth. Stories are what the fig tree is about. From the bruised and broken edges of our world, the fig tree tells us of the good work people are doing in the Northwest. People from all walks of life, all perspectives, most grounded in faith and all grounded in the sacred work of justice, hope, repair, and healing. These are the kind of stories we need to hear. That is one of the reasons I support the fig tree. It gives me a sense of hope and reminds me that many people are doing important work building up and repairing the world. Mother Teresa once said, "It is the greatest of mistakes to do nothing because you feel you can only do a little." We cannot do great things, only small things with great love. Fig Tree stories remind us that there are people in our community and region doing the work of healing and justice with great love. They are incarnating God's love into the world. All of us, people of good faith and goodwill, are doing this. One simple way we can do this is by supporting the fig tree. When we support the fig tree through financial giving, volunteering, and prayers, we amplify the good work happening in the community that might otherwise go unnoticed. We live in a time when people are desperate to hear hopeful stories. We live in a time when people are longing for a turning of the page toward life rather than death. Just knowing there are others out there doing the work of justice and healing from whatever spiritual well they draw from gives us a sense of who we really are. Our gifts can help unnoticed work be noticed. Your gift helps the fig tree and reminds us of who we are and what God expects of us. Your support helps the work of writers telling stories, staff putting the seeds of those stories together, the printers who publish the newspaper. Your support helps the comprehensive listing of regional services in the resource directory get put out to people in our community, and your support does the education work through the Eastern Washington Legislative Conference. We invite you to become an amplifier of the good. Let's join in the 38 years of work spreading seeds of hope.
Now, coming into today, we have raised more than $15,000, which is more than a third of our goal of $42,000. We ask you now to consider stretching what you were thinking of giving to help us reach that goal. If you already gave, you might consider an extra $38 for our 38th year. For the first time this year, we face increased costs for printing the newspaper and directory, increased costs for mailing, distribution, printing more copies to reach more people, and increased costs for staff to do the added workload.
At thefigtree.org, click on the program, and there's a donate card for you to fill out, print, and send by mail. Also, at thefigtree.org, you can click on the donate button and choose from the options for giving by credit card, through Give Lively, Facebook, PayPal, or by text.
You may ask, what should I give? How much is needed to accomplish what tasks? The donate card in the program offers some options for consideration. For example, $150 will sustain our mission of connecting people. $275 will strengthen our online presence. For $500 to $2,500 or more, you can be an annual resource directory community partner. $750 covers the cost of writing 3 articles. $1,000 to $5,000 will build our capacity through general support. Please consider a $380 to $3,800 pledge over 3 to 5 years, based again on this being our 38th year. $80 will introduce the fig tree to new readers, or simply determine an amount significant to you to help us spread seeds of hope. Again, a stretch gift, an extra $38 for our 38th year.
To give to our work, go to thefigtree.org/donate.html for the options. Again, there are links that go to Give Lively, Facebook, or PayPal. If you wish, you can share your gifts in the chat so we know how much you're giving.
You saw the slides at the beginning of our program. Now is the time to support journalism that brings hope.
This year, working with YouTube Live is a new approach for us. With YouTube Live, this presentation and portions of it will be online later for you to share with other people. You can gather small groups in congregations and show the YouTube recording for a mission moment or an adult forum. That's one way that you can share with others how the fig tree spreads seeds of hope. That's one way you can help spread support after this event. It's also possible for you to become involved by volunteering. We need volunteer writers, editors, mailers, delivery people, and people to help plan events.
In the past, we have offered door prizes. We had one donation sent to us to inspire giving. Rick Steves of PBS has donated a signed copy of Rick Steves' Europe 101, History and Art for the Traveler. That book will go to the highest donor. Thanks again for all of you who have joined us today. We ask for your prayerful consideration for the ways in which you can support the Fig Tree.
All of us at the Fig Tree are committed to continue to share stories about people who make a difference in our community and to share resources that make a difference in people's lives.
As you consider what you want to give, remember that a gift can help make sure that the Fig Tree continues to spread seeds of hope. We're coming to the end of this presentation, but you can continue to give. But thank you so much for joining us today and for your generous gifts to the Fig Tree.